Welcome, everyone. This is the Dynasty podcast where we dive into the grand tapestry of the secrets on how to build your own dynasty. Get ready to embark on a journey through many glory and downfalls. This is Sam Lammy, Sam Millions, and this is the Dynasty podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Some people call him the GOAT. This is a guy from Iran, a business partner of mine, a killer, and a leader of an organization that he's running called Millionaires in Training. This is Amin Kordian. How are you, brother?
Mr. Sam, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited for a good conversation.
Awesome. Well, this Dynasty podcast is literally designed for us to speak to people and really just find out, how are they building their dynasty? And but before we get to that, let's talk to the audience and figure out people who want to know who Amin Kordian is. Who is this guy?
Yeah, so I came into this country at the age of 6. An opportunity presented itself, and I took it, and I never looked back. I came to here. I went to UCF. I did biomedical sciences. And, I got to a point where I was like, I can go into medical school, but that's not really what I want to do, right? So what I did instead is I started my business. I was trying to get into real estate, but because obviously everyone who has, who is successful, who has money, goes into that field. But then I heard about insurance and how it works. Right. And as soon as I heard about it, it just clicked for me. Right. It's like when you sell a policy, you get commission off of it.
Yeah.
But also over time, you build yourself an account that pays you residually, whether you work or not.
Yeah.
And that concept to me was so attractive. It's like you get to buy your time back. And here we are today, 3 years into the business. We'll never look back, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. And you're from Iran. Right? Iran.
Yes.
Iran. I messed it up trying to not mess it up. And I know that one of the people that you look up to in the insurance space is Patrick Bet-David. Tell me about that. How does he inspire you?
It's just everything he says when he speaks, his books, his podcast, I can 100% relate to him. He came into this country at the age of 10, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He went to he was in a refugee camp. And then he went to the military. And I've been hearing his podcast recently, and he said the moment that it really clicked for him to become who he is now was a moment where somebody in his family disrespected his father. And it was a simple joke. It was in the family settings. And basically he said that the way that it made him feel, right, triggered everything that he is now.
Wow.
Right? That's why he has this book. It's called, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And the way that person made his father feel is, again, what he is now. So at any time, basically, the fact that, you have somebody gets you so angry to where it makes you want to be the best that you can be is, what really, got me to listen to him.
Yeah. Like revenge is the best success. And a lot of people who are great in business is because of that. Like for me, I just remember, and this is kind of a core memory for me. I remember my first grade teacher told my mom that I would either be dead and in jail by age 18. And I remember hearing this as a first grader, and I'm like, man, like I want to be something, and I wanted to make it past 18 to where even when I graduated, I remembered my 6-year-old, first grade self, 6-year-old self. I remembered that moment, and I shouted, who said that I wasn't going to make it? And it was just a surreal moment for me that I won't forget. But yeah, fear and enemies is something that like motivates a lot of people. Like Michael Jordan even says that, he would make up stuff in his head so that he would go after his opponents with such vicious vigor, and like so that he could win. The goal is always winning. Now, building your organization now, like tell us a little bit about your organization and how you plan on building your dynasty.
Yeah, so it started the beginning of this year. The team name is called MIT, Millionaires in Training. And the reason I came up with this name is because, ever since I came to this country, I basically told myself, I'm going to make this opportunity the best it possibly can be.
Yeah.
Right. And everything that I'm doing now is, as far as, helping other agents, building the systems, basically helping other people get to their goals is going to help me get to my goal.
Absolutely.
Right. And basically my team is an association of like-minded individuals who want to obviously succeed in life, learn how to do content, own basically gas stations, learn systems, investment, basically everything that is not taught in school. Right. While also doing insurance, which basically funds the entire project for them to do whatever it is they're passionate about, right? I've said this before, I'll say it again. I am not passionate about insurance, but I've seen what this vehicle can do for you, right?
Yeah.
It gives you money every single month, and you can use that money towards whatever business it is that you're passionate about. Like I have agents on my team who want to own restaurants, want to own gas stations. I have agents who like owning gyms.
Yeah.
And the day that I spoke to them, it's like, you have to see this business as a game. It's a game of building a business, building systems. And, when you learn how to play the game, it becomes so much easier when you go to other businesses to do the same exact thing.
It's absolutely right because I remember Brad Lee said something on a podcast, and the number one industry that made the most millionaires in this country's history is insurance, the number one industry. And so, and a lot of those individuals, they make the money in insurance like you're talking about, and then they buy real estate. And that's why real estate is also so profitable. But it really is, it's funny how it is the right vehicle and the vehicle that is used the most for people to purchase real estate at an investor level and become. And you're really like you're living what you just explained to me is the definition of millionaires in training, because that's what a millionaire should do. I know that they say the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, and so that is phenomenal. That I can see that that's exactly what you're building with your organization.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate that.
So we know a little bit about you. Now, what are some of like your favorite books, or what motivates you to continuously be successful? Because you are, you won GOAT last year, right? Or number one agent in the region last year. You've done that before as well. So you're excellent. But like, what gets you to remain so excellent? Because you've taken an organization from maybe starting number 20 or 30 to number 6 team in the nation. There's over 500 some odd teams, and you're number 6 in the nation. Like, what is driving you, and what tools do you use to motivate you to do that?
So on your first point, I used to hate reading books, right? And there was this book one time that really hit me. Atomic Habits, right?
Yeah, good one.
And, people who are obviously successful, right, or even not successful, what they think is if you want to be, really successful, you have to have massive action. That's not true. You just need to have habits that get completed, right? And it sounds silly, but it really first started with me getting up in the morning and making my bed.
Yeah.
Because what that does now is you have a habit of getting things done. You get up, the bed is made, done, click. What's the next thing to get done?
Wow.
And I've noticed, obviously, goals are important, but the most important thing is keeping track of your habits and making sure they get done. Yeah. Because if they don't get done, now you're in the momentum of not getting things done. And it always starts the smallest. Like the perfect example is like the gym, right? When you work out for quite some time, after week 2, week 3, okay, let me take this day off. It's my rest day. Okay, that's fine. But if it happens the second day, now you're screwed because now you're in a momentum of not going to the gym, and it becomes so much easier to not go to the gym. To bring it back to the organization, right? Every single day, new things pop up. Politics, negativity, business stuff, so many, right? And the best way to deal with this is focusing on the systems and the things that I have control over, and to make sure that they're getting done. Because if I can, take control of that, over time, everything else that I don't have control over will take care of itself. Yeah. So the biggest thing I would say is habits. Goals are important, but habits are way more important. You focus on those, the goals will always take care of itself.
Wow. I always say to myself is like, it only takes in the journey of 1,000 miles or 1,000,000 miles, it starts with one step. And you just have to focus, like you said, step by step. I know every day you make your bed. That's been the biggest thing I've heard you say in the last 2 years. Like you talk about, look, I make sure that this first task is done. And it's because you're competitive, because now you want to win in that area. And some people might think it's crazy. Oh, he wants to win and like making his bed. Yes, I want to win at that because if I can win at the small things, then I can win the war of success. Because again, success is no destination. It's like a legit journey. And to take that journey again, a journey to 1,000,000 miles starts with one step. And so that's really huge, man. Now, you've also converted quite a bit of agents as well, and caused them to, like one of your agents, I don't know if she wants her name, but Caitlin Rivadeneira made over $300,000 in her first year. What's your method of like getting people from not knowing anything about the field to becoming not only experts, but in the top 1% in their field?
I would say in any industry, right, if you want to make 6 figures, you have to work really hard, right? Mm-hmm. But if you want to make 7 figures, you have to make other people around you 6-figure earners first, right? Obviously, I'm never going to take credit for any of my agents' success. Caitlin Correct. Is a beast.
Correct.
All I have done is just show her what I have done, what I have not done, and everything that she has done today is all her. Yeah. Right, so I never take credit for any of my agents' successes because it's not right to do so.
Yeah.
Second thing is in any industry, right? Like for example, Jeff Bezos, right? Mm-hmm. Like you always want to hire people or be involved in a team with people who are as good, if not better than you.
Correct.
Because if not, you're always going to have to chase them. What are you doing here? Do this here, and you're always going to be having to like boost, I guess, the business. But people who are self-sufficient, people who are doers are very rare. And Caitlin, who I have tremendous amount of respect for, who's going to be a top leader in my organization next year, she's a doer. Like, she is self-sufficient. I never have to go to her and say, why aren't you doing this? Why are you doing this? The mission statement is simple. This is what needs to be get done. And she basically gets it done.
Yeah.
So basically, the faster that you duplicate yourself and don't hide, I guess, any secrets, the more loyalty gets built between your organization and the faster your organization grows as a whole. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Well, and I think, I kind of want to know, like, because in this industry, it is hard to get people to become self-sufficient. What is like the way or the standards that you've set on your team that would like literally create a number of people who are just succeeding at a high level?
The standard is winning, right? I always tell all my agents, you focus on winning, the money will come, right? And sometimes people get, I guess, stressed or anxious about having to compete. Well, let's just say me and you compete right now, right? And you win, right? I would still have a better performance and I would still make more money than I would have if I didn't push myself and if we didn't compete.
Exactly.
So, right? So I always tell this to all my agents, hey, find someone in the team and compete with them this week. And they're like, well, I don't want to compete. I only compete against myself. That's fine. But the reason why you're competing is because it makes you anxious. Now you're in the spotlight. Now you're forced to get things done.
Yeah.
And basically you're having the entire team holding you accountable, which is so much easier than for you to just be in your head and having to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. That competition, man, is huge. A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, there's so many people in industries that would like pin two of the people that are like almost equal to each other. I know, it happened a lot even in our organization where people would be like, yo, Amin, go after this one. And after a while, you're like, man, I don't really even need this. But that competition is huge because if not, we fall into something called complacency. Because a lot of people don't really shoot for perfection anymore. They shoot for being comfortable. And what you're saying is allowing yourself to be comfortable with staying uncomfortable and being uncomfortable. And it really, like, I know for a fact, like, in year 4, going on year 5, I'm still in the office almost as much as I am in year 1, and that's because I don't want to be complacent, and I'm competing against people who have been in this business at least for a little bit longer than me, and the goal is to always, go after that. Do you have like a reason why or anything other than winning that gets you going?
My biggest reason why is my father, right? I've said this before multiple times in other podcasts as well, right? And I'll share this again. So a little bit backtrack. My father was a successful doctor in Iran. And again, an opportunity presented itself where we had the chance of living here. Yeah. And he basically said to himself, well, I can either stay here and continue my, practice, or I can just drop everything and take my son to the United States, America. That's a sacrifice he did for me. And I was supposed to become a doctor. I was supposed to become an engineer, but it got to a point where, it just wasn't what I wanted, right? And it was so hard for me to, I guess, move away from that path that was, presented for me all my life to do what I'm doing now. But I was so sure of myself, and like a psychomaniac, I could clearly see the vision that no one else could see, especially my father. So when I first started doing insurance, I got a lot of negative comments and a lot of animosity from him, but I had to, respect him because I knew he just loves me. Yeah. He just doesn't know what it's like. But now, fast forward 3 years, I make, more than a doctor, if not equal. And I did this in 2 years, not 10 years of 7 years of medical school and 4 years of residency, et cetera. And I don't say this to brag or, I guess, impress, but basically, like, you have to be so confident in your vision to where the outside noise does not bother you, right? But now that I'm in the position that I am today, he lives a good life. He takes a trip here and there. He's basically retired. And to me, that's very satisfying. It makes me pretty proud. But it's not the ends. My next goal is to buy him a house, buy him a car, because I owe that to him. He's done everything he can for me in this country. And once I do that, then I will focus on myself. So my father is my biggest why. And of course, making it in this country is also my second biggest why.
Wow.
Thank you.
Man, that is a phenomenal story, and it's good that you don't forget it. A lot of people, when they start becoming successful, they forget what got them there. And you can go all the way back to the beginning and say, hey, had it not been for this sacrifice that my father is making to leave a life of being a doctor elsewhere and coming to America just to give me a fighting chance of a better life, like, that is huge. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely huge. And, that is it for me as well, man. My parents sacrificed a lot. My mom was in nursing. My dad, was a mechanic, did phenomenal in body shop and stuff like that. And they sacrificed a lot. My mom stopped working to raise 4 children. She legit stopped working to raise 4 children, and she gave up that career to make sure that we were good. So every chance I get, that's the goal, man, is to make sure that she knows, Mom, thank you. Dad, thank you. And so I love hearing that, because I feel like a lot of the times now people forget that. Man, what podcast or what influencer do you think is someone that pushes you the most?
Patrick Bet-David, Valuetainment, right? I kind of briefly went over it, but he just speaks to my soul. Like, every time he speaks, right? I love the way he is, the way he talks about business, what he had to go through. Like I said earlier, there's this simple fact that someone disrespected his father churned him into who he is today. Mm-hmm. But also, for my agents, I listen to his sales trainings all the time, the way that he looks at money, investments. But another thing is, Patrick Bet-David, he's been in the industry for so many years. And the more money you make, at some point, you're going to be like, well, I've already made so much money. Why am I, why am I still going?
Yeah.
And he's made plenty of money. He had a company, PHP, which he sold last year for $249 million after, building it from, I think it was 18 agents to 45,000 agents across the whole country.
Wow.
Right? And obviously he's Persian. And I love my people because they just get it.
Yeah.
Another person would be Manny Koshbin. I listen to him a lot. He's also a successful Persian in the United States. Those are my main two.
Man, Persians are hard workers,
Yes.
man. Like, there's quite a large community of Persians in New York, and that's where I grew up, and they were always hard workers. And so, like, we often joke in the office we love our Habibis, man, because it's like you guys get it. And you say it sometimes, like Americans a lot of times don't know how easy they have it, and that's because you were able to see how it is to live in another country where you don't even have the same freedoms that we have here. Like, we are able to go to EDC.
Yeah.
No problem.
Never
You
there.
ain't doing no EDC in Iran, right? And so, man, I love hearing that. Is there anything like you want to share with the audience, something that like you're like, man, I want to get out on this podcast?
What I would say that what I was thinking is, whoever you are, wherever you are, there's always this thought, this mission, this thing that you keep thinking about, but you do nothing about it, right? And for me, that was, separating myself from the medical field and doing what I'm doing today, right? You have to take risks, because if you don't, you're always going to be working for somebody who does. And you're going to be being paid by someone who does take risks. And you're going to make them rich. And when I read this book, it was called Fake by Robert Kiyosaki, right? So many times, so many family members, friends, etc., always have advices for you. Mm-hmm. They know nothing about what you're talking about. They know nothing about the business, nothing about the industry, but they always give you advice. And the biggest thing I always, it's always like a default question in my head every time I hear advice, right? If I hear your advice, am I going to end up like you, right? Wow. And the reason I share this is because, like I said, from my culture, it's like when you're not a doctor, or you're not an engineer, or you're not an IT, you just haven't made it in the world, right? And sometimes when I go to family gatherings, they haven't seen me for quite some time. So, oh, wow, you've grown so much. How are you doing? How's the medical field is going? And I say, well, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing insurance. And they, oh, nice, but why? As if like, you idiot. And then I look at them like, why are you giving me advice? Just in my head. Obviously, I'm pretty respectful all the time, but why are you like giving me advice? And just like I said earlier, like you always have to have this like crystal clear, confident in the vision that you have, to where the outside noise just simply doesn't bother you. And the higher you go, the more this noise, basically comes to you. Yeah. That's what I would say. It's like whoever you are is watching this. If you have something that you want to do, or if you hate your job, or if you're not getting paid enough, or someone is making you upset, whatever it is, like do something about it. Like, why aren't you just sitting there and doing nothing about it? Yeah. In your head, okay, well, this is the problem, this is the solution, but I'm going to do nothing about it. Yeah. That's what I would say.
I love that, because that taking advice thing is like, and I've heard you say it in many instances, so like I know this is your true core feeling of it. What you're pretty much saying is, I don't have time for the naysayers. I have to focus on the main thing and the end game, right? And as you were speaking, I could just think, Burna Boy being one of my favorite artists, he said that a boat doesn't sink because of the water outside of it. The boat only sinks when the water gets into the boat. And what you're doing is like, all right, I get you have advice, but I can't cloud my own personal judgment with your advice that is on contrary to what I believe to be true for my life. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. It's like you have this elite focus on the main thing. Like I've watched it. I've watched you do it every year. Every year you set out to make a goal. You say it in the beginning of the year so that at the end of the year and all throughout the year, you don't say anything else. You just work. You'll say it in the beginning of the year, and then the next time they hear it again is
when
at
it's
the
done.
end of the year, when it's done. And that's because you don't allow your journey to be interrupted by anyone who's going to try to put you on a detour. And I've seen that about you, and it's a great, great, great thing because I know that you have goals for next year, and I know once you say it in January, I'm just gonna like get out.
You're not going to hear it again until the following year. Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought this up because I meet so many people all the time, right? Any business, whatever it is, right? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. This is who I am. They so confidently boost themselves up, which is fine, right? But then you look at their actions, it's doesn't make sense, right? For example, sometimes agents come in, newer agents, right? I'm gonna come into this industry and I'm gonna dominate. I'm going to be the number one person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then you look at their actions. They don't show up to the office. They leave early. They complain. They're always negative. And in my head, it's like, good one, right? So I tell this all the time to my agents, right? You've noticed, I rarely speak, right? Once I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to die trying.
Yeah.
Right? I'd rather go 100%. And if I fail, I fail. That's just how I think, right?
Yeah.
And I rarely say, I used to be like this, but it's a pretty bad trait. And just always coming so arrogant and telling people who you are and what you're gonna do, rather than just doing it. Because I always say, I might be 70% complete, right? But somebody else might have 10% that I'm missing, or another 2% that I'm missing. But if you come across every single time so arrogantly, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, if that person is more successful than you, they're not going to share that secret that you need to go to the next level. So every time I have an interaction with anybody, right, I'm pretty quiet in the beginning.
Yeah.
I want to hear them. What do they have to say? How does their mind think, right? Once I establish who they are, then I start speaking. And if they're better than me, I always open my ears and I listen. And I would say that's probably one of my best traits. I'm really good at listening. And I'm really good at identifying people who have good advice. And I'm also really good at filtering people who just have terrible advice.
or they're BSing,
Yeah, all the
time. But yeah, man, I actually like that because I've watched you do all that, like when you talked about the agents that come in and they're like, that's because they are trying to sell themselves, and if they sold policies as much as they sold themselves, we'll all be in a good position. But I like your ability to just like say it and then do it, because I'll just stay out your way, and I encourage everyone else to stay out of it. Like now, you have an organization that you're growing, and it's growing pretty fast, and the conversion and the success, it just proves itself. No one could doubt the system because the system has spoken and has shown that you are the number one team in all of Orlando and number 6 in the region. And so, how can, if someone's listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube or Spotify, how can they reach you? What's your social, email? How can they reach you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Amin, AMIN_K_O. That's the best way to reach me, right? And, if anybody who is watching, right, if you're not happy where you are, if you hate your job, if you hate your manager, and you want to change to a life-changing opportunity, something that changed my life completely, and now I'm helping other people change their lives as well, definitely DM me. Or just DM me, just hear me out. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't, right? At least hear about the opportunity. Because what I hate sometimes is people are so closed-minded, right? They hear about insurance. Oh, it's an MLM. It's a pyramid scheme. Well, everything is an MLM, Let's just say you work at, I don't know, T-Mobile. That's where I used to work.
Yeah.
You have an assistant manager. You have a manager. You have a district manager. You have a regional manager. It's everything. That's with every company, every
Exactly.
corporate, and anywhere in this country.
Even the family unit. There's
Yeah.
the grandparents, the parents, then the children, then the
There's
grandchildren.
always somebody, on top of you, like getting benefits from your efforts all the time. So what's it different now that you're in insurance and now you're fully commission based? Because agents come in sometimes, well, I'll go to your team, but I don't like the idea of me working so hard and making you money. And I asked them, okay, that's fine. So then why should I share with you my skills that I've learned in the last 3 years with so many failures for you to speed up your process?
Yeah, and the making money off of you thing is kind of insane because they shop at stores where they don't know the owner. They shop at stores where they don't know the manager, and those people get compensated based on them spending money. It's just the way America is, the way the world is. Money makes the world go round, and we have a system where we're literally, truly trying to help people. Like your team, like I love seeing what's been going on all year long, but in particular the past few weeks, you guys have launched like 4 or 5 agents, and they're all excelling. And all of them, and I love your meetings. You only one person that wasn't on track, but we both know like this week he's gonna go off. And other than that, like it's just the system works, man. And if we're gonna help you, and there's no compensation for training. People don't realize that. There's no compensation for training, no compensation for us doing the therapy sessions or anything like that, but they don't want us to get paid. And their last job, their manager didn't get paid basically off the production, but someone with a jet in California did, And so, yeah, man.
Another thing, now that you brought this point, another thing I hate sometimes is I hate like entitled agents. I hate when they come in as a new agents. They know nothing about the business. They know nothing about the systems. They know nothing about investment. And they come into the team entitled as if like we have to like baby them and help them and hold their hand in the entire process, right? For me, if I met someone who is tremendously more successful than me, makes way more money than me, I would shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Shut up and listen. I would work for them for free.
And you
5
have.
months.
You have. That's your story,
yeah.
actually. That like. I'm sorry to interrupt it, but it just like dawned on me that literally your start to success isn't the way that most people talk about your story and how you became Amin Kordian in the last 3-4 years. Like, talk about that.
So when I started like 3.5 years ago, right? Obviously, I came into the business. I knew nothing about it. And I went about 4, 5, 6 months making very little money. Maybe maximum 2,000 in the whole 6 months. But it was so difficult for me to quit because I was seeing so many people around me making money. And I was like, there's no way, like they're making money and I'm not.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what kept me like in the business. But also throughout my career, I've met so many great leaders that have each taught me something that I was missing. Right? To where now, 3 years later, I have the #1 team in Orlando. But I rarely say that because I still want to learn. I still want to grow because I always say this all the time. No matter how good you are, there's always someone better than you.
Every time.
Always.
Every time.
Right? And again, if you come across arrogant, they're not going to share that little tip that you're missing. So fast forward 3 years. Last year, I sacrificed absolutely everything. I rarely went out. I rarely partied. I lost a lot of friends. But it was worth it. I finished the #1 team, in the office. And now fast forward another year, now the #1 team in the entire Orlando region. Yeah. And I'm going to do the same thing next year and the same thing the following year and the same thing the following year. It's never going to change. That's just my system.
Yeah,
right. Man. I love learning. I love growing. I love, hearing new advice. I hate to be not a complacent, but just a one-line person where just nothing ever changes.
Yeah, yeah. You like growth, and you're willing to take a little deficit sometimes or a little dip to learn from it. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I just thought about it. You bet on yourself. And anyone who's literally watching, like Amin, Kordian's a great leader. I know I watch how he operates with his organization. And one thing about them is they allow everyone to be themselves, but there's standards that are set, and we just want you to bet on yourself. Like, that's pretty much it. And one thing that I know with you is watching, like, because I was there at the inception of you coming into insurance, and I just remembered you were coming in every day, eager. No one even knew you weren't making money. Well, so when I look back and I think about it, I'm like, dang, yeah, his checks never were in the meeting in the beginning. And then out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, because again, in order for someone to be successful, you were learning, you were listening, you were really coachable. It didn't matter like where it came from. You knew people's strengths and you knew where their weaknesses were, and you took them for who they were and what you could learn from them to better yourself. And then, so it wasn't out of nowhere. Everyone thinks like people who are successful is like out of nowhere. No, I watch you sit there and listen to calls. I watched you like go into training. I watch you ask questions, like back-to-back questions, and the minute details of insurance and leadership. You ask the smallest things. And sometimes for the other person, if they don't realize that it's a hunger to learn, they might get annoyed. And they don't realize that those little questions are monumental to someone who's trying to build something. And so it's no secret, because I also watch you edify every leader that you've had as well. From Jonas to Brandon Capina to Paulo to Chris George to everyone, like everyone, you edify them and you talk about the strengths of each. And I love like seeing that about you, man. Brandon Bull, can't even forget that. You still call him the GOAT. Like, still to this day, like, you know, Brandon Bull is a guy that we all have respect for.
Always.
I went to my daughter's field trip not too long ago, and there was a petting zoo and a whole bunch of goats. So I get down and I'm like, hey, you know Brandon Bull? And so that's good, man. But, I think you're one of the goats, brother, like in this industry.
I appreciate that so much.
It's not just in, USHA or whatever. Like, it's in the industry, because like it's not how someone starts. It's not even how they finish. It's what they do through that journey that is what success is. And I can proudly say that I know a very successful person in you. Yeah, man. I don't really know much of what else we could talk about, unless you have anything you want to talk about.
Not much, man.
Not much.
This was a good conversation, because sometimes it's good to just like bring out everything that's in your head that you can't bring out sometimes because of business and work and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Everyone who's ever been in my life, good, bad, positive, negative, whatever it was, I always hope the best for them.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to say is that I'm a very competitive person.
Yeah, you are.
This past 3 years, all my focus has been on competition. But my new mission statement for 2024 is actually collaboration.
Wow.
Because I've noticed in any industry, and I actually share this with my leaders as well, we are not competing next year, because the moments, especially in your organization, right, when you have two leaders compete with each other, subconsciously, it's going to cause some sort of animosity.
Yeah, it does.
That's just how it is.
Every time.
Right? And the bigger the organization gets, at some point, it's going to break and collapse. Right? So this is for every single one of my agents that's watching this. 2024 is going to be a year of collaboration, of growth, obviously competition as well, but more so putting the ego down and hearing everybody out. And you never know, you might, step into someone who, has way more knowledge than you, way more success than you, that's going to help you and your business elevate to the next level. Yeah. Right? That's going to be my mission statement for next year. Yeah. Because I am super excited. Obviously, once the year is done, I'm going to take 2 weeks off.
Good.
Because I have taken absolutely 0 weeks off this past whole year. And it's good to sometimes step out of the business to reflect, think where you came from, where you are now, and also look on your business to see where this business needs to go. Right? And I always find myself the best when I'm in nature, taking a walk, sometimes running, in the gym especially, but more so just trips. right? Just trips because you see what all you're doing is, worth, right? Because, every time I go on a trip, it's the best thing ever because sometimes people get guilty for leaving the office. If you're not in the position to, okay, I understand, right? But if you've done this for so long and you get anxious to leave the office because you're scared or stressed because a certain number might catch up to you or et cetera, you're a slave to your business.
Wow.
And you're never going to leave your business ever, right? It's a mental prison, right? But every time that I've, just like today, I went with one of my agents to one of the malls, Altamont Mall, and I went to the first job that I had, Hollister. That's where I used to work.
Wow.
I took a picture of myself, the same picture that I had, I took 8 years ago, just to reflect where I have been and how my journey has been and where I am now. Yeah. Because if you don't do this, the next few years of whatever business that you're doing is going to be miserable, and you're going to get to a point where you're going to tell yourself, I want to leave this business, or I'm burnt out. Burnt out apparently is a thing now, right? The only reason anyone is ever burnt out is, number one, they hate what they do, and they don't have a purpose.
Yep.
Every time one of my agents comes to me and says, I'm burnt out from what? You're not even close to what you told me, what you promised me is what you're going to do as far as your own goals and your own success. So what are you burnt out about? Are your parents retired? Do they have a house? Do you have a nice house? Do you have a nice car? Are your financials set? What are you burnt out about? Yeah, so that's another thing. Just simply stepping out of the business sometimes and reflect and think and plan and execute is extremely important in any business.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was talking to someone about that. If your vision isn't big enough, then that's when you get burnt out. Like, I used to be a 7-day in the office kind of guy. Like, I was there no matter what, like normally 7:30 in the morning to 1 a.m. for the most part. And the reason why I never got burnt out doing that for 2.5, 3 years was because I knew that there was more out there. Like, I work as if this could all be gone tomorrow. Because it could be.
It can be.
Like, it could be. And I don't want to say I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like, I don't want to say that. I want to be able to, if this all goes away, let's say a Democrat gets in office, gives universal health care, this all goes away. I want to say, well, I took every single dollar off the table.
Yes.
Every single dollar off the table. And that's the real goal. And if people lose sight of that, and maybe their why isn't to win. I know you and I, our birthdays are very similar. And some people believe in the zodiacs, and so we're Virgos. And quite naturally, from what I've seen and gathered, Beyonce, Michael Jackson, yourself, me, from what I see, we're great, and we like to win. And Kobe Bryant even. Kobe Bryant. So, man, that's one thing, man, is like burnt out is not a thing. Burnt out is when you lose sight of focus on your main thing. I don't believe in burnout. I don't think I ever will.
It's like, to speak on that, it's like, let me give you a scenario, right? Because sometimes agents come in to us, me and you both. I'm tired. I want to take a break, right? It's funny. If we tell them, hypothetically, this business is no longer existent in the next 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, I promise you, they're all going to be $1 million producers. Yeah. Because now they know they're about to lose what they have. And the biggest thing is, people sometimes don't understand the value of things until they lose it, right? And, once they lose it, they realize, obviously, the value, right? Damn, I did have it good. Yeah. Right? Like, funny story, like, we went to Dominican Republic, I think 2 years ago. It was a regional trip. And it showed me a different perspective. We were in the cars, and all these kids, all these families were running, begging for $1, $1. And I handed out one of them $1, and the kid was just so happy, as if his world was just made, and he ran back to his family, and that gave me so much perspective. It's like, we're over here making 300 calls a day in order to make 1,000, and anywhere from a $200 commission to $1,000 commission. And people are still complaining. Okay, well, what else would you rather do, right? Make somebody else rich, or keep going in this hell to get to paradise, I guess. To have your own business. So it's all about perspective. And another thing that I heard one time, Tim Groover, It's this quote that it's always in my head all the time, almost every single day, right? And what it says, if you think the price of winning is too high, wait until you get the bill from regrets.
Yeah, I know that.
Every single time. And this hits my head like every single day throughout the year. Right?
Yeah, that's insane. You know, like with what I think is like fear is a hell of a motivator. I was thinking even after I just said, like, I don't want to go back. That's really why I keep pushing. I don't want to go back to being broke. And I thought to myself when I was thinking that while you were speaking, the reason why people don't drown when they don't know how to swim and you throw them in the deep end is because they realize now my life is in jeopardy. And fear is a hell of a motivator for success. So you will successfully, maybe not swim, but you'll successfully figure out how to float and get your way out because that fear of losing life is so strong. And the fear of going broke and going back to not being able to get what I want when I want it, that's what motivates me to continue. Because if not, you know, we both would have been good a year ago, 2 years ago, financially to say, yeah, I could be easy. I could live life easily now because our residual income and overriding income alone for someone who doesn't invest time or anything like that, we would be okay for a good while, especially you live frugally, you know? I started buying meal preps just because of you, because I started realizing, man, I'm spending thousands of dollars a month in food. It's crazy.
It's very hard. It's like when you start making a certain amount of money, like you obviously want to buy yourself, you know, certain things like car, nice watches, nice belts, whatever it is. But for me, I've like developed my mind, I guess, to not even thinking about those things until I have the important things, a house, an investment property, and things that are going to generate me income.
Yeah.
And from the income that those things are going to generate for me is now I can go buy myself a nice car, a nice watch. Because what happens is that people get excited. They buy that nice car, but after month one, month two, okay, well, this is cool, but what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Now I have to pay pay $1,000 or $2,000 lease every single month, where I can just use that money into my business and triple or quadruple my income for the following year.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that our office, the way that our garage and our cars are like kept away, that we don't have that buying stupid, like frivolous stuff like vehicles just to be like, I made it. And so a lot of people are able to make, because some people do it too quickly. So a lot of people are able to make more sound decisions because really no one sees your car when you leave the office now. Like, because we have a garage and we have a lot that's 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Like, so I love that because, you know, people like yourself, AJ, Amin, Kave, all have invested in businesses outside of this now. And none of you guys are like flexing with like major super expensive cars, because the goal is not just to make money, it's just to make passive income. And so like I'm glad that our office is set up the way that it is.
Completely agree.
Man, again, this podcast with Amin Kordian, I hope you guys enjoyed it. A phenomenal podcast. You could find him on Instagram at what?
AMIN_K_O.
Right. Amin what?
Amin Co.
Amin Co. Yeah, all right. Amin Co. _ Don't forget the underscore. You can email him, DM him if you even have advice on how he became successful. And if you're interested in an opportunity and you live in the greater Orlando area, also you can DM him to make sure that, you can join an opportunity that will change your life the same way that this one changed his. Again, this is the Dynasty Podcast. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you, Amin Kordian.
Thank you, sir.